Kicking the ball. Right then. So our player, we've added a rigid body to. Our ball, we haven't added anything into yet. So I'm just going to quickly add, and I'm just going to press back the X on that part, sorry. And on physics 2D, I'm going to add a rigid body to it as well. So let me just scroll down to find there he is, rigid body 2D. And I want to set the gravity to 0. Yeah, I think I'll have to hit it to 0, otherwise it will drop straight down like the chicken did in one of the previous videos. Right, the other things we need to add are colliders. So basically, at the moment, if I run into the ball with the player, I'll just run over it and nothing will happen. The rigid body is more to do with the code inside of things and what kind of happens with if it gets bumped into that type of thing. Right, so I'm just going to minimize the rigid body and I'm going to add another component. It's on physics 2D again, and you've got all these like colliders listed in amongst this. And what I'm looking for, because this is a circle shape, is a circle collider. Now, it's a bit odd, I haven't got a cursor to actually scroll in. I'd suggest you kind of zoom in a bit so you can see what's going on with this. But what's happened is a green like circle has appeared around the ball, and basically it says circle collider here. I'm not going to do anything with these bits here. We will do at some stage. Well, we might not need to actually in this respect. And I'm also going to add a collider of some sort to our chicken. So physics 2D again. Now I could do a circle collider because he's kind of a circular shape, but I'm actually going to use something called a polygon collider. And what that does then, it basically makes sure, as you can might notice here, it basically sketches around the shape which is there. So any part of that connects with the ball. Now, in fact, I might change that. I won't have a polygon collider because I don't want him to beak the ball along. His feet are supposed to be underneath him. So I'm actually going to get rid of the polygon collider and instead, like we were previously planning to do, add a circle collider. So there's a circle collider. It's a little bit big at this stage. So on the radius, you can see you can make it ginormous if you wanted to. And like on the screen, I'm kind of pointing up here in that respect. But I'm actually going to make it smaller. I don't know what I've done now. Right, I'm just going to drag it to the left, 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 left to where his feet would be under his head, roughly about that area there. Now, if I press play, now what should happen is the ball and the chicken shouldn't fall off screen unless I've forgotten to do something. They should just be sat there waiting for something to happen. Now we've coded our chicken to be able to move left and right, up and down. And now when I come into contact with the ball, it actually knocks it. Now, it kind of is a bit too strong there, and I've lost the ball, it's gone off completely. So I'm going to press play, come back onto the ball, and on the rigid body, I'm just going to maybe knock these down a little bit. So linear drag, if I set it to 1, if I set the angular drag to 1, so this is experimenting just to see what happens basically. And if I maybe increase the mass, if I increase that to 2, so it's twice as heavy. Okay, so it's not like a balloon and goes flying off with the slightest touch. Right, so let's just see what happens this time. And eventually we get up to load. So I'm just going to gently walk into it. As you can see, that's a bit more like it. All right. Now a player, because it's hitting into the ball, is spinning round because it's having the ball's impact is having an effect on the player. So the last thing I really need to fix is to basically go back on our player and on the rigid body, where it says constraints, I'm going to freeze the Z rotation to stop it spinning, basically. It kind of looks cool, actually, the way it was spinning. It didn't stop anything working. It just kind of looked a bit not right. But this time, if you tick the Z freeze rotation under constraints on the rigid body, that should mean that our player doesn't spin when he hits the ball. But the ball still does, which is kind of cool. Now, if you don't want the ball to spin, you do something similar then. You actually make sure that the Z rotation is selected. But I kind of like it like that, the way it's spinning at this stage. Right, next video, we need to get the camera to follow our player because we keep losing the ball off there. So let's see if we can get that working.